Hmm. Hello. Had a thought. How we considered since the scriptures were translated and that the actual scriptures or the text did not have punctuation, but it was added. That since someone from another culture, another people, decided to, I guess, translate it, that they put their perspective as well as what they believe the punctuation should be in the text. So sometimes when you're reading something that it may not actually be what's being said. A lot of times when you speak and you add punctuation to something, it actually changes the effect of what's being said. So when Moses said, "Here I am," he's talking about saying, "Here I am," or was he saying, "Here I am," speaking to I am? Was he acknowledging that he knew who he was speaking to? And yet, even when he went to go forth and ask, who would he say he's coming in the name of? It says, "I am that I am." It says, "I am that I am." It changes the significance when you read it a little bit differently. Of course, I'm not a linguist. I don't know the language like that, but I do understand that the original Hebrew, not the Yiddish, did not have points in it and stuff like that I guess would be used for punctuation and stuff. And so, not knowing the phrases as well as the idioms of the culture would make a difference in how you interpreted the scripture. It would actually change it. See, one thing that I know myself, being that I'm a melanated person, is that when you use slang, if you don't know the context of the slang being used, it actually changes the narrative. I could be playing basketball, and I'm talking about I'm killing them out here, and anybody who has knowledge of that slang would know that I'm having a good day playing basketball. But if someone is walking by in here, I'm killing them out here, they basically could think that I'm actually committing murder. And so the punctuation as well as the scene, the context, it matters. And so the words definitely, they say one thing, but if it's not fitting the right narrative, it can be taken wrong. And you can add punctuation, you can add inflections and all those different things and make it mean something that it's not really meaning. So, just something just to consider, because I know that, hey, we use slang and Israelites use idioms or slang all the time. One of the big ones that I've dealt with before was like talking about camel going through the eye of a needle. Did they even have the same type of needles that we have today, far as with clothing? Seeing that they didn't believe in really blending like wool and linen together and stuff like that, and they used a lot of fabrics that were the whole animal or the whole beast, whatever they used for that clothing. Did they have the same type of needles? And then, then back then, the eye of a needle actually was an entrance into the wall of a kingdom or a fortress. And so they knew what the context was. When we first read, it's easier for a rich man, to get through the eye of a needle than to get into heaven. We were thinking the actual needle that you sew with, and that definitely, or easier for a camel, excuse me, to get in through the eye of a needle. We had no context of them getting into a wall or going into a fortress and actually having to take off their load, which is called a burden, and crawl through. So when you look at it differently like that, you see a rich person, if they take off their load or their burden and crawl through, humble themselves, it makes a lot more sense. But of course, the connotation, it affects everything. The punctuation and the inflections, it affects so many things. You have to have an understanding of the culture to really grasp things. And of course, till now, we really had no real taste of what the culture was about. Our culture was hidden. We were getting it from a Western aspect and then not really understanding it's an Eastern context. It really didn't fit. All of this chapter and verse, that was not there. So you can easily cherry pick. Now, I've said that before, but I actually heard Morey Pat Brown say that recently, so I don't want to seem like I'm taking credit for that. But anyway, if you don't have the whole thing read, especially when it comes to Paul, you don't know. You see that man, he actually contrasts in his conversation. He'll say one thing and compare it to another. So his thought actually shifts consistently. And so you have to actually finish out the whole thought to see what his focus was. You have to start from the beginning and go to the end. If you just grab one verse or so, it'll seem like he's even justifying sinning to bring forth grace. But in the end, he says, God forbid or Yah forbid, because that's not what he meant. But most people are liking to cherry pick or just take what's there on the paper. You have to understand the punctuation was not something that was there. You have to understand that the person that actually translated were not about that same culture. It has an effect on what you're reading. Taking out things or changing things to fit your narrative is something that happens a lot when it comes to conversation, when it comes to discussion. If you're not a witness of it from the beginning, sometimes the story is not exactly the same. The vantage point changes. So sometimes we need to open ourselves up, and when we read in the scripture, allow the Ruach to lead us. Ignore the punctuation. See what the Ruach is saying. And it may not be exactly what you read or how you read it through due to the punctuation. It may be a little bit different. Just wanted to share that. Just my observation, my vantage point. Blessings and shalom. Shankwilla Carter out.